Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine Gray, and today I'm going to talk about the earthquake that hit New Jersey last Friday, April 8th, 2024, and why it's so rare. Unless you've lived under a rock, you have probably heard of this earthquake. And the reason is that this earthquake is not common on the East Coast. In fact, we don't talk about earthquakes all that often on the East Coast anyways. And the reason for that is that we don't live on a fault line. Now, the reason we don't often have earthquakes on the East Coast is fairly simple. There simply aren't any active faults on the East Coast. Active faults would be near the edges of tectonic plates. That's where you would expect tectonic movement to happen. They either slide past each other, or converge, or diverge. You probably learned about that in school. Anyways, these are the movements that cause stored up energy in the crust, and when the rocks suddenly shift, it can cause a type of explosion, and we call that explosion earthquake. That's what we feel on the surface as seismic waves trembling. Now, the East Coast isn't on an active fault. In fact, the East Coast is in the middle of a tectonic plate. There's one boundary in the middle of the ocean called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. And there's another boundary near California called San Andreas Fault. You've probably heard of that one. Since the East Coast is in the middle of a tectonic plate, we usually don't feel the seismic activity over in the ocean or in California. They just don't bother us. But this one in New Jersey was able to be felt from Virginia all the way up to Canada. And that is because the rocks here are really old, they're really cold, and they propagate seismic waves a lot faster. So you might have felt this earthquake if you lived near the East Coast. So then what caused this earthquake if it wasn't tectonic activity? Well, some geologists think that it was tectonic activity way out in the ocean. Since the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is pushing two tectonic plates apart, the North American one and the European one, we still kind of feel the geologic activity on either side of that, even if it's 1,000 miles away. So some scientists think that, yes, we had a little fault line in New Jersey that was left over from millions of years ago that reactivated and was able to release some of the pent-up energy from the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Other geologists think that it might have been isostatic rebound. Isostatic rebound is a crazy concept that is based on the last ice age. So the East Coast used to be under miles of ice, and I'm not exaggerating, it used to be up to 2 miles of ice. So picture 2 miles of ice piled up on the crust. It's weighing the crust down, and then it melted because we don't have ice today. So this melting of the ice allowed the crust to bounce back up. This bouncing back up is actually causing mini earthquakes using fault lines that were left over from the time of Pangaea, the time that there was a supercontinent and North America and Europe and Africa all were combined together, causing collisions and causing little fissures in the crust. Those fault lines got left over, and we see them in New York State, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, and sometimes they can be reactivated to release some pent-up energy. So will we feel more earthquakes? It's possible that we'll see aftershocks. Aftershocks are smaller earthquakes that happen after the bigger earthquake. And I shouldn't really word it like that because sometimes aftershocks can be bigger than the initial earthquake. In that case, we say that the bigger earthquake was a real earthquake and all the little earthquakes that led up to the bigger earthquake were like precursors. In any case, yes, it is possible to get more earthquakes. In fact, after the 4.8 magnitude earthquake that hit New Jersey, we got little earthquakes. They were around magnitude of 2, but we did get a larger one, a 3.8, that many people felt outside of New Jersey as well, up to upstate New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, obviously. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we still had an aftershock in the coming weeks. With that said, it's probably nearly impossible to have a 6.0 earthquake or 6.5 because the fault line in New Jersey is pretty small. To have a bigger earthquake, you need a bigger fault line. You need more rock to be able to slip. And that's simply not available in New Jersey. There's only little fault lines, which is good. You want little fault lines to release the pent-up energy slowly. That way, it won't damage buildings, it won't damage subway tunnels, and people will largely be safe. Now, this isn't the case for other areas of the world, like Taiwan. If you haven't heard, Taiwan did suffer an earthquake just 3 days before this one. However, the New Jersey earthquake seemed to make the headlines more because it affected New York City and people felt the apartment building swaying, which they also did in Taiwan. and it actually killed people, so I don't know why we don't talk about that one as much. The bottom line is that the East Coast isn't in a geologically active area. We have been in the past, and by the past I mean 160 million years ago. But today, you are probably safe if you live on the East Coast. Sorry, California. If you're a teacher watching this, I have some worksheets available in the description, so go check them out at my Teachers Pay Teacher store. And I hope you all have a great week. See you later.